I welcome you back on this amazing platform of Infinity Learn by Sri Chaitanya. Students, in today's class, we will discuss some previous year questions based on this chapter, Sexual Reproduction in Flowering Plant. So, in this session, the objective won't just be to solve the question or to get the answer, but we also try to discuss and try to know that why the other options are wrong, right. So, through questions, we will try to revise all the important core concepts and facts on which NTA has asked question, right. It is going to be an amazing session, stay connected. Yeah, so that is the very first question you can see on the board. It is related to aquatic plants, right. So, in water hyacinth and in water lily, the pollination takes place by. So, students, this is a very important fact and NTA has utilized this fact again and again. That means, in NEET examination, NTA has asked question repeatedly on this fact, and the fact is, in majority of the aquatic plants, right, as the name suggests, the plant is aquatic, does not mean that it will always and always use or utilize water as the pollinating agent. Please remember, students, listen this very carefully, that in majority of the aquatic plants, what happens? Some other, right, some other source is used or agent is used for pollination other than water. For example, when I talk about water hyacinth and water lily, who will be used? Insects or wind will be utilized as a source or agent of pollination and not water. Please remember, as the name water lily, water hyacinth tends to confuse you, right, that they are aquatic, they are growing in aquatic habitat, then why not water can act as a, or serve as a pollinating agent, but that is not the case, right. So, that is the trap you need to understand. Do not get deviated or distracted by the water term which is there in front of both these plants, right. Please remember. So, in water hyacinth and water lily, pollination will take place with the help of insects or wind. I repeat again, students, water lily and water hyacinth will emerge above the surface of the water, and in them pollination will take place either via insect or wind. Please remember, majority of the aquatic plants, in them pollination get executed in this way. Very important fact. Next question. Very important question that was asked in NEET 2020 and again very conceptual one. Please pay attention. See, let me tell you, student, most of the students were even confused with the question itself. They were not able to crack what exactly the NTA is asking the question. Forget about the answer, the question itself was not clear. So, let me first explain you what the question is and then we will jump to the options. The plant parts which consists of two generations, one within the other. See, students, by this line, plant parts consists of two generations, one within the other. NTA is trying to ask you, out of these four options, in which option there is a part or parts of plant where both sporophytic and gametophytic generation is there. So, here two generations refers to gametophytic and sporophytic, right, students. So, out of these four options, you got to tell or you are going to find out the plant part in which both sporophytic, in which a plant part or parts in which a part represents to gametophytic generation and another represents to sporophytic. So, let us check out all the options. Pollen grain inside anther. So, see here, students, pollen grains represents to gametophytic generation, right, because they are what? They are haploid. Remember, microspore mother cell will undergo meiosis and form 4 haploid microspores that will develop into pollen grains. Hence, pollen grains are haploid, hence they represent gametophytic generation. Next is anther. So, my lovely kids, this pollen grain formation takes place inside an anther, and anther is a part of sporophytic body. Each and every cell of anther is diploid, right. So, anther represents to sporophytic generation. So, kids, this should be clear that the first option is obviously in sync with what the question is asked by NTA. Yes, pollen grain inside anther do represent 2 generations within each other, right. Next, germinated pollen grains with 2 male gametes. See, germinated pollen grains, each and every cell of the pollen grain will be haploid and hence will represent gametophytic generation. So, this structure, germinated pollen grain with 2 gametes, just show one type of generation, and that is gametophytic generation. Simple. So, it is not in sync with what the question is asked by NTA. Next, seed inside the fruit. My kids, what is seed? Seed is formed when a zygote develops into an embryo, and then after embryo the next stage is seed, and you know zygote is diploid, embryo will be diploid, hence seed will be diploid. All this is going to represent sporophytic generation because they are diploid. And what is fruit? Fruit itself is diploid, right. Fruit walls will be formed with the help of the ovary walls, right. So, that whole structure, that flower, that female structure of the flower, if I talk about, is also what? It is also diploid, represents to sporophytic generation, which is in future going to form fruit after fertilization, right students. So, please understand, seed inside fruit, both seed and fruit represent sporophytic generation. Sporophytic generation. Let us see the last option, students. Embryo sac inside the ovule. Yes, what is an embryo sac? My students, embryo sac is actually produced with the help of a functional megaspore, right. And how is a functional megaspore synthesized? Remember how I taught you in the classes where I have explained the entire, I have explained to you the entire chapter sexual reproduction in flowering plant in 15 to 16 lectures, right. So, if you are still unable to recollect the facts and concepts right now with respect to this question or whatever I am speaking, I request you do refer to the playlist, botany playlist, and find out the lectures on sexual reproduction in flowering plant with the help of the lecture name, and please do refer them, watch them. So, wherever you are falling or feeling lack on a concept or a topic or particular thing, you can easily connect to that, right. You will be able to easily relate that with the help of those lectures. So, do check out the playlist. Now, see students, how embryo sac is formed? Embryo sac is formed with the help of a functional megaspore, and a functional megaspore is produced with the help of what? With the help of megaspore mother cell. Megaspore mother cell is what? Megaspore mother cell is a diploid. Via meiosis in megaspore mother cell, there will be formation of haploid megaspores. Out of the 4 haploid megaspores produced, there will be degeneration of the 3 and only 1 megaspore, the haploid megaspore, will remain functional, right. And out of that haploid functional megaspore, entire embryo sac, 7-celled 8-nucleated embryo sac will be produced, right. I hope this much is clear to all of you. Hence, each and every cell inside an embryo sac is haploid and represents to gametophytic generation. So, embryo sac represents to gametophytic generation. And next, see student, what is an ovule? Ovule is a part of sporophytic body. Ovule, each and every cell of the ovule is diploid, and hence ovule represents to sporophytic generation. Sporophytic generation. So, see my lovely students, It is only option number 1 and 4 which represents two generation, one within the other. Gametophytic, sporophytic, gametophytic, sporophytic. Hence, the answer is 1 and 4. Hope this helps. Next, in which of the following both autogamy and geitonogamy are prevented? Very good question. But to jump on the answer, I want to teach you before this some important terms. So, let us revise those important terms with me. What is a dioecious plant and what is a monoecious plant? Only then you will be able to answer this question, right. So, what is a monoecious plant? Monoecious plant. And what is a dioecious plant? See students, what is a monoecious plant and what is a dioecious plant? So, when on the same plant, both male and female flowers are present, right. What is a monoecious plant? A plant on which both male and female flowers are present. What is a dioecious plant? On which either male or female flowers are present. So, see students, what is a monoecious plant? A monoecious plant is a plant on which male flowers and female flowers, both the types of flowers will be present on the same plant. And what is a dioecious plant? A dioecious plant is a plant on which only single type of flower will be present. That means either the dioecious plant will be male or female. If the dioecious plant is male, only and only those flowers in which stamen are present will be there, right. And on a female plant, on a female dioecious plant, all the flowers will possess only what? Pistil, and male dioecious plant will possess the flowers which possess only stamens. So, staminate and pistillate flowers will be present separately on male and female dioecious plant. Now, understand students, in order to prevent both autogamy and geitonogamy, please remember students, both autogamy and geitonogamy can be prevented in a dioecious plant. When it comes to monoecious plant can only prevent autogamy. They cannot prevent geitonogamy. So, remember students, for autogamy to take place, the plant should possess bisexual flowers, right. Since both do not possess bisexual flowers, then it is okay. It can prevent. Monoecious and dioecious both can prevent autogamy, but when it comes to geitonogamy, what is geitonogamy? Geitonogamy means transfer of pollen grains from one flower to another, but both the flowers should be present on the same plant, and this can easily take place in monoecious plant because here both male and female flowers are present on the same plant. Hence, geitonogamy cannot be prevented in monoecious, but can always be prevented in dioecious plant. Although, please remember this very important fact student, autogamy, geitonogamy both can be prevented in dioecious. Now, let us come to this concept students. Here only and only papaya is a plant which is dioecious. Only papaya is dioecious, rest are monoecious, hence papaya can prevent both, right. I hope now all these terms are clear to all of you. Let us see the next question. Before that, let me give you a brief recap of all these terms students. So, what is autogamy, geitonogamy and xenogamy? Very simple. What is autogamy? See, in the same flower you can see there is pistil as well as stamen. You have to consider that as of now. So, when the pollen grain, remember these flowers are what? Please remember students, these flowers are bisexual, only then you will be able to understand this, right. So, here in the same flower, pollen grains from the anther has landed on the stigma present in the same flower. So, pollen grain from, with the help of, what is this? These are pollinating agents. So, with the help of pollinating agent, it will drop on the stigma of the same flower, then it is known as autogamy. What is gametogamy? When pollen grain from this flower get transferred to the stigma of this flower or vice versa. What does this represent? Gametogamy, because between two different flowers present on the same plant. And what is xenogamy? In xenogamy, there should be two different flowers present on two different plants, right? Next, what type of pollination takes place in Vallisneria? Right, students? So, very simple. Here, male flowers are carried by water currents to female flowers at the surface of the water. So, female flower with the help of a long stalk will go and reach to the surface of the water, right? Remember, and then male flowers will be released on the surface and will float passively. So, with the help of water currents, they will try to reach to the stigma of this female flower of the Vallisneria. So, this is how pollination takes place in Vallisneria. Next, what is the most common type of embryo sac in angiosperm? Very simple, students, it is monosporic, which is formed via 3 sequential mitotic division. Yeah, see students, monosporic with 3 sequential mitotic division. How? Let me explain you this now. So, see, what is this, students? This is the functional megaspore. This is the, okay, this is already written. It is the functional megaspore. So, remember, my dear students, when megaspore mother cell undergoes meiosis, it will form 4 haploid megaspores. Out of 4, 3 will degenerate. These are degenerated megaspores. Only one megaspore, which is haploid, please remember, because it is formed via meiosis in megaspore mother cell. It will be haploid, right? So, see here, students, this functional megaspore, which is actually haploid in nature, will undergo what? It will undergo mitosis. Please remember, this is the single functional megaspore, haploid, right? This will undergo 3 sequential mitotic divisions. So, this is the nucleus of the functional single haploid functional megaspore. It will undergo one-time meiosis. Remember, all these 3 sequential mitotic divisions will be strictly free nuclear, right? Only karyokinesis will take place, and after 3 sequential mitotic division, they will be followed by cytokinesis, right? So, please focus on the number of nuclei as of now. So, this is what? This is the nucleus of the functional megaspore. It will undergo first time free nuclear mitosis, right? What will happen? Out of this, 2 nuclei will be produced. Now, each of the 2 nuclei will again undergo mitosis, second time mitosis, and will form this structure. This structure will be formed after 2 time mitosis, right? So, here you will have 4 nuclei. Now, again each and every nuclei will undergo mitosis. This is the 3rd time mitosis taking place, right? And each will convert into or divide into 2 nuclei. Hence, from this 4 nucleated structure, they will convert into 8 nucleated structure, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. And finally, there will be cytokinesis and formation of such a structure known as embryo sac, in which there will be 7 cells and 8 nuclei, right? Because in the central cell there will be presence of 2 nuclei, rest other 6 cells will possess single nuclei. And please remember, students, for the formation of this embryo sac, how many times mitosis took place? 3 times, and in what? In a single megaspore, functional megaspore. So, this development of embryo sac is considered as monosporic because it took place with the help of single functional megaspore via 3 sequential mitotic division. So, I hope now this answer is clear to all of you, how monosporic with 3 sequential mitotic division. Let us see the next question. Which of the following statement is not true? Pollen grain of many species cause severe allergy. It is right. Not true, it is asking. Stored pollen grain and liquid nitrogen can be used in the crop breeding. Yes, that is why they are stored. Tapetum helps in dehiscence. No students, tapetum does not. Tapetum is nutritive in nature. It is nutritive in nature. That means the function of tapetum is to provide nutrition to the developing, right, the pollen grains, right. So, understand students, very important thing is in an anther is surrounded by 4 layers, right. So, outermost epidermis, endothecium, middle layer, they have the collective function, although they have their respective function also, but they collectively help in protection and dehiscence, right, and the innermost tapetum will provide nutrition, right. Exine of the pollen grain is made up of sporopollen, this is also correct. Next, in angiosperm, so I have given you the answer, right, this becomes the answer of this question. In angiosperms, microsporogenesis and megasporogenesis involves, obviously both microsporogenesis and megasporogenesis will involve meiosis. So, see students, during microsporogenesis what will happen? Microspore mother cell which is diploid will undergo meiosis and form 4 haploid microspores, right. During megasporogenesis, diploid megaspore mother cell will undergo meiosis and form 4 haploid megaspores, out of which 3 will degenerate and 1 will remain functional. I hope you can recollect that, and that is how microsporogenesis takes place. Inside a young anther, there is microsporangia, homogeneous tissue, you have to understand from here. So, inside sporogenous tissues, there will be differentiation and formation of microspore mother cell, right. So, all these structures are diploid, all these structures are diploid. So, till here, till megaspore mother cell, all the structures will be diploid, and this microspore mother cell will undergo meiosis and form microspore tetrad, and each of the cell of this tetrad, these 4 microspores will be haploid, and from here every structure will be haploid, every structure will be haploid, and till here all the structures will be diploid. Right. Next, megasporogenesis. So, you have to understand from here, sporogenous tissues will differentiate. Sporogenous tissues are diploid, 2n. Sporogenous tissues will differentiate into megaspore mother cell, right, and megaspore mother cell will also be 2n. It will undergo meiosis and form 4 haploid megaspores. So, it all megasporogenesis and microsporogenesis are involving meiosis, right. Next question. Male gametophyte in angiosperms produces. So, see students, male gametophyte in angiosperms will produce 2 sperms or 2 male gametes and a vegetative cell, right. So, let us try to understand how this happens. So, see students, remember what I told you, pollen grain is the first cell of the male gametophyte, you must have heard this, right. So, inside a pollen grain, initially how many cells are there? Remember, pollen grains are produced or formed from microspores. So, microspores are haploid, pollen grain will also be, each and every cell of the pollen grain will also be haploid. Now, remember, inside pollen grain initially 2 cells are produced, one is the vegetative cell, another is the generative cell, right, both are haploid. Now, understand students, in 60% of the angiosperms, when dehiscence happens of the anther, pollen grains will be released in 2 cell stage, where inside a pollen grain there will be 1 vegetative cell and 1 generative cell. And when this pollen grain, talking about those 60% angiosperms, when this pollen grain will go and land on the stigma, their germination of pollen grain will take place, and during that time when pollen tube is getting generated inside the stigma and style of the female pistil part, at that time generative cell or nucleus of the generative cell will undergo mitosis and form 2 male gametes, right. So, in 60% of angiosperms there will be formation of 2 male gametes after pollination process. but you need to remember the result. The end result is there will be formation of 2 male gametes and 1 vegetative cell or vegetative nucleus will be present in a male gametophyte, talking about the 60%, right. Now, in remaining 40% angiosperms, before the dehiscence of the anther or before the pollination or before coming out of the pollen grains, there will generative cell will undergo mitosis and form 2 male gametes before pollination, right. So, that is the difference between that 60% and 40% category of angiosperm, but the net result is in a male gametophyte 2 sperm or 2 male gametes will be synthesized via mitosis in generative cell nucleus, and there will be another nucleus or cell known as vegetative nucleus and vegetative cell. So, that is how I have tried to represent it, right. So, in 60% of the angiosperm, the pollen grain look like this, right. Pollen grain look like this, they have generative cell and they have tube cell or vegetative cell, and after pollination during the germination of the pollen grain, this generative cell or nucleus of the generative cell will undergo mitosis and form 2 male gametes, and in 40% remaining of the angiosperm, the generative cell before pollination will undergo mitosis and form 2 male gametes before pollination. I hope this is clear to all of you. Next, which flowers of which have single ovule in the ovary are packed into inflorescence are usually pollinated by? Very simple question and very important fact, students. NTA has repeatedly asked question on this fact. Please remember, such flowers are pollinated with the help of wind. Very important fact. Double fertilization is very simple. Double fertilization is syngamy and triple fusion. So, my lovely students, what is syngamy? So, during syngamy, one male gamete fuses with a female gamete and forms zygote, that will form embryo, that will form seed, like that will be the formation. And what is triple fusion? During triple fusion, one male gamete fuses with the 2 polar nuclei, and finally there is a formation of primary endosperm nucleus that will in future go and form endosperm that will provide nutrition to the embryo, right. I hope this much is clear to all of you. Next question, persistent nucellus is seen in the seeds of. See students, generally the nucellus, which is a nutritive tissue, get absorbed during the developmental stages, but there are some cases, for example, in plants of black pepper and beet. I remember in black pepper and beet, the nucellus do get persistent, or remains of the nucellus get persisted in the seed itself. So, such seeds, in such seed, such persistent nucellus is known as perisperm, seen in black pepper and beet. Seen in black pepper and beet. In them part of a nucellus get persistent inside the seed. Next, the coconut water from a tender coconut represents. So, remember students, you all must have had coconut, right, any time in your life. At least once you might have, even if you are not coconut lover, right. So, please notice this point students, in a coconut there is coconut water which is liquid that you can drink, and there is a white part, right, inside a semi-solid, like moreover it is liquid, moreover towards liquid side it is, right. So, there is a watery thing and there is a semi-solid thing inside a coconut that you need to scrape out and then eat, right. So, that water part of the coconut represents to free nuclear endosperm, and the white portion represents to the cellular endosperm, right. So, inside a coconut, the water part represents to the free nuclear endosperm, and the white kernel part that you have to scrape out and eat, white kernel part represents cellular endosperm. Please remember this, again NTA has asked several times question on this. Next, that is the last question. Seed formation without fertilization in flowering plants involves the process of. So, it is apomixis. So, see students, very important, in some of the species or plants of Asteraceae family and in grasses, there are certain plants In them seeds are produced but without fertilization, without fusion of male and female gamete, and such a phenomenon of producing seed without fertilization in flowering plants is considered or termed as apomixis, and the reverse is amphimixis that we have been studying in the entire chapter of sexual reproduction in flowering plants. So, that is all from today's class, students. I really hope you all must have enjoyed this session, and stay connected with me on this platform of Infinity Learn by Sri Chaitanya for the next previous year question session. Thank you.